agenda meeting. We are going to begin with a presentation on the Paul Schaefer Homes.
All set?
Yeah, just have to try and listen, but you can tell me.
Okay. Good evening. David Darpino with the Planning Board. Wanted to give you a quick update on one of our projects that we're working on, looking at categorizing and getting a listing of all the Paul Schaefer homes that are in Niskayuna. Michael Scrubby-Tennis and I are sponsoring this from the Planning Board, and we have been working with the Kelly Adirondack Center and Union College. Their director, Margie Amoto, is here today to also helpful in this collecting information for this presentation. So go to the next slide. So the purpose here that we're looking is to get local recognition of the contributions of the Paul Schaefer homes in developing residential properties in town. These homes are very unique. They're notable. They add to the character of these neighborhoods. And for the most part, they've really been preserved in a lot of their original state. Our objective is to establish a listing database of the properties to be kept on file at the Town Hall and the Kelly Adirondack Center. Surprisingly, there isn't a lot of information on the residential properties themselves. When they were built, a lot of times the information was turned over to the homeowners. As opposed to on the commercial side, there was much more documentation that survives over at the Kelly Center. So we're working together in collaboration with that. Initially, we'd like to get a resolution where the town officially recognizes those properties and then establish a plaque program that each individual homeowner could buy and put on their house. Would help other residents, recognize that this is a unique house. It is a Paul Schaefer home. And those are the goals that we have for this. I just want to make everyone understand we're not looking to create a historical charter. We're not looking to create a historical zone, anything like this. This is just local recognition that the town is going to give to the homeowners in those neighborhoods. So the history. Many people know Paul Schaefer as a preservation and naturalist and activist in the Adirondacks. But like I said, we don't have a lot on his residential buildings. Many times he wasn't classically trained as an architect. He was a builder. He did work with many different trades. So he was self-taught that way. Eventually he did do some drawings, but a lot of times he coupled with another engineer or architect in the beginning to get his houses going. So the slide on the left is the board that the Adirondack Center has put together that they use to categorize, who Paul Schaefer was as a builder. The one in the middle is a typical drawing that is done. And the unique thing about the files that we do have is that this one simply says Iroquois, I think it's Iroquois neighborhood, Inman Road. No address, no name, nothing. So we use what we have to go down the street and try to figure out which facades match up. And this is how the hunt has begun. And then the slide on the right is the cover of the pamphlet of one of the Leishkill preservation pamphlets that he had worked on and put out. There's Paul at his house on St. David's Lane. As it says here, he left high school after his freshman year, was an apprenticeship, and began becoming a builder in 1935. Yep. So in 1939, he put together a 6-page pamphlet that was used for promotional materials to basically promote himself as a builder and developer. And a lot of this pamphlet is theoretical in his connection with the land and the development of the western side of the capital region. So I know it's hard to kind of read in these slides, but he talks about the landscape, the hills, and the very unique layout of the area between St. David's Lane and the north end of Route 7 here. And those were the areas that he focused a lot of his home building. Next slide. He talks about the land, again, the service that he would provide, but he has a whole page on community thinking. And it's a really, really great read. And one of the excerpts out there is, show me his home and I'll tell you the kind of man he is. And that was a testament to the homes that he built. And, you know, a lot of people that do know a little bit about him was that he wasn't the greatest businessman. You know, he didn't make a killing off this, but he did leave a legacy of some really, really good homes. There were many stories from people that I've talked to at their houses that said he wouldn't build for them if they wouldn't stick to the strict guidelines of his specifications and use the materials. He didn't want to, you know, have you come back in a couple years and get to it, because he knew that if you never got it out of the gates, it might not ever be implemented on the house. So homes at the time were built for $10,000, and this was in the late 30s. So, and but he could go down as low as $7,500. Okay, next slide. The specifications, which were the last page of this, talk about all of the materials. There was a lot of masonry, slate from the Granville area, cabinet work, pine, V-groove cabinets, stressed hinges, really took on what he would classify as colonial revival and in the Adirondack style, using these noble materials that he used throughout. This is a set of plans that one homeowner had. You can see here they were in pretty decent shape, and there's also a specification booklet that went with it too. So this particular set of plans actually dates to 1939. So his brother Carl was a mason, and as we worked our way through getting some information, we found out that some people that think they have a Paul Schaefer home maybe only have part of a Paul Schaefer home, because his brother might have done the fireplace or the work on it. So it's a little bit broader than where we thought it was, but we felt it prudent to maybe include anything that had any documentation on what Carl did, because they worked so closely together. One of the key items that you would find in a Schaefer home, there was always a hearth. And the house had not specifically a central hearth, but a hearth, and the hearth could be used for cooking. And there's a crane, which is the appendage on the left-hand side mounted to the inside of the fireplace, would swing out and would have a cooking crane. Most homeowners, if they do not have the crane installed, do have them in their basements, or they have them displayed elsewhere. So that's another signature thing that we look for when we tour some of the homes. These are examples. So surprisingly, we thought that a lot of it would be similar to the houses that were on the left-hand side. This one built in 1960. But the one on the right-hand side was built in 1939. So he is working in different styles. It's not strictly colonial revival. There's a lot of Tudor aspects to the house on the right-hand side. And that has led us to believe that there's probably a good range of styles that he used and implemented in his construction. Again, St. David's Lane, this is the Kelly Adirondack Center and the original home of Paul Schaefer. If you have not been there and gone through and taken the tour, I highly recommend it. It is very, very, very interesting. A couple on Stone Ridge Road and just up on St. David's Lane. Again, the span from 1953 to 1938. You can see similar elements that they're using, but again, brick, wood, slate roof, copper. The house on the left, when I met the homeowners, when they found out they had a Paul Schaefer home, which by the way was self-policed by all of the other Paul Schaefer residents on their street, he absolutely went head in and put all new copper snow slides and replicated all the elements that were on the outside of the house. Again, the homeowner at 930 St. David's Lane has painstakingly been restoring windows and removing layers of renovations to try to get back to as much of the original fabric as possible. So these owners really have, a really keen interest in the stakes in the homes and what their appearance is. Again, some other ones north of Route 7 over on Cayuga, and one of the smaller ones on Stone Ridge Road. again, similar styles of what they're using. You can always see that there's a recessed front door, a type of lintel that's demarcated across the top, and, the use of Greek revival elements. But again, there's always a chimney, at least one, if not maybe more, within the house, and there are always prominent features on the elevations. A couple more in the Cayuga Road area. Again, he would work with the landscape and the hillsides. So a lot of these houses are not built on flat parcels. They're on existing graded slopes, and he took advantage of that. So if you've had the privilege of going into a Paul Schaefer home, they didn't just bring in fill to bring up a second story. They made it connect, and in there might have been a different room that comes in, broken by a fireplace. So within these houses, there's all these small little moments that you can get into with really unique spaces. He didn't really leave many spaces unattended to. One of his trademarks is very, very, very small kitchens, which a lot of Paul Schaefer people do, or homeowners do complain about. But a lot of them have come up with very, very unique solutions to modify the inside of the house to still maintain some of the character. So our task is and goals are to keep working with the Kelly Adirondack Center and Union College. They've been working on the copyright information so that homeowners that do have information, if they'd like to get that over to the center, we can have it stored, and we can start building a database. That way, people that have the homes, if they want to go and see what's been done within that time period, if they need to use it as a resource, we'd like to try to have one singular area that they could get to. We've been working in conjunction with the Economic Development, Historic Preservation, and Environmental Conservation Committee to write a resolution at some point to recognize the local contribution to the community. And then even though we've been starting this process, there has been a lot of homeowners that are willing to sit on a small committee to go around and to start documenting not just a front picture of the house, but those that want to have other photo documentation of the inside or the other elevations, to set up time to do that. And then ultimately establish a plaque program for the homeowners that they would purchase, some sort of concise design that we would come up with, whether we did that at the town level or maybe through the center, that each homeowner could have and display proudly on their home. So this is kind of an important week because it is Niska Day on Saturday. And the Adirondack Center has been very, very helpful with all of this. They will have a tent at Niska Day, and Margie here is going to have some sign-up sheets with information that if anyone has a Paul Schaefer home, they could give us their name and address and email, and we'll set up a time to go there and take a look and just keep building on the catalog that we have. From the people I've talked to, it's been very positive. They really like the idea. They're very open. They're very proud of their home, and they want to do whatever they can. And I think having that interstitial information that can be swapped out between them will just help preserve those homes. Just from a private standpoint. So that's where we are.
Appreciate this presentation here tonight, all the work you've done on John's committee, presenting and bringing everybody up to speed. So, and thank you for giving your time on Saturday as well. And Margie, thank you very much. So thank you both very much.
Good. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Thank you.
As we're just waiting for the lights to be turned on, I know a number of folks had reached out to us about the situation with your Niskayuna. The Gazette is not here right now, but they will be going back to mailing the Your Niskayuna. I know folks were very concerned about the blue bags in their driveways. Then they were very concerned that they got rid of the blue bags, but they were still getting the newspaper thrown in their yard. But so starting next week, they'll go back to mailing them to our homes. And I think most people will be a little happier with that. They started accumulating in yards and folks were not happy. So, okay, moving right along.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that update. Okay. Okay, we're going to move into our agenda meeting, and we're going to begin with Laura Robertson.
Number 1 is a resolution to establish a town historical committee. We're not 100% sure that's going to be the name, but generally speaking, there's a lot of people in town who are interested in working on historical issues and meeting with the town historian and just working on historical just issues. So we would hopefully have a draft resolution to the town board on that, maybe at the end of this month. Number 2 is a resolution to appoint summer interns to the planning and building department. And we may likely combine this with the engineering department and anybody else, but essentially college kids start being available at the end of May. So it's good timing for us to get our interns up and running. I know I have some names and Matt's going to work on some names. So we'd like to get those in so that they can start working for us in the summer. Number 3 is a resolution to purchase storage sheds for the use at River Road Park. This is tentative. We're still working on getting the engineering going and figuring out where everything's going to go. And we do have a couple questions on this, but in the event that it does go through, that's on here.
So are the storage sheds, I know there are some questions around this.
Definitely.
Are the storage sheds for softball? I know we talked about a number of different things, or were they going to be storage sheds for community programs, and we were going to let softball use the storage area the existing storage area in the pavilion?
So I really don't have the answer to that, and that's one of the questions.
I think that's the issue. I think
Yeah.
what we agreed to was that we were going to have new ones and they were going to be new for community programs, and whatever we had in the pavilion, the storage area in the pavilion now was going to be for softball. But obviously we need another meeting on this.
Yeah, right. So it's tentative. Theoretically, we could work it out by the end of the month, but we definitely have to work some stuff out on that. Number 4 is a resolution to award a contract for the proposal of a neighborhood mixed-use code updates and design. This is also tentative, and it would just depend on the price. But we were originally looking at ODHEC, but then we're not really looking at ODHEC anymore. We just want to get the neighborhood mixed-use code right. During our public hearings at the planning board level, there was a lot of public comment, and people really showed us that the neighborhood mixed-use code was not ready. So we put out an RFP that was tailored toward ODHEC. That's really not where we're going right now. So we want to scale that back because we had a variety of costs that were associated with that. Scale that back and then get somebody who can sketch up a neighborhood mixed-use zone. We talked about it before. I don't know if we talked about it here, but big box stores are struggling. The whole world is moving into a different kind of retail direction. And so we really feel that like getting a neighborhood mixed-use code now that's very strong can be beneficial to the town, moving. It doesn't need to apply to just one parcel. We're not planning on rezoning the entire town. But if we have a very adaptable zone that can help with these things, that's what we want to do. But we really want to take the time and do it right. So it's a long process, and it just depends on the cost. But I just had that on there tentatively.
So this is something you're trying to subcontract out rather than do in-house?
Well, we have a code now, but what we were originally discussing is that we'd like to see an engineer take it and sketch something out with it. So it can even just be a square parcel, like a square 5-acre parcel, and be like, what do you envision a neighborhood mixed use area to look like? We toured, some of us, I think David, right? Where'd he go? He left. Toured Malta because we talked about Ellsworth Common when we did our presentation. I know a couple other people have gone down to Latham, and there's elements in there that they like, and there's elements in there that they don't like. And our code is trying to be a form-based code, but it's not really there yet. So what we're thinking is someone could sketch it up. We could say that's really not what we're going for. We want to visualize what we need these things to look like, what would be best for our community, and then work from those visualizations back into making sure that the code would work.
Now, what would the cost be for contracting with the engineering firm?
Yeah, so we had a range when they came in. I mean, it was something like 5,000 to 20,000, and we're really not interested in the 20,000 range. We're more interested in the 5,000 range.
Are we putting it out to bid?
Yeah, we sent it out to various.
All the ones we have on our
PDs.
town list?
Mhm.
And yeah,
We did.
I know we talked about this. It does seem to make sense to try to envision the final product that the community wants to have and then kind of work backwards from that. And I think that would be the goal of what whoever gets this contract sketches up or prints up or comes up with that model.
Yeah, it might have to be
Kind of
something that's a little
work
open-ended, right?
Yeah.
Because they may
Yeah.
sketch something and then,
Right.
put it around. People say, oh, I like that, or as you said, this design or that effect.
not what we want.
Something, things that you don't want.
Right, exactly. And we already know there's definitely things that we need to fix. So, like, right now in our code, it says you can have gas stations and drive-throughs. And the whole point of neighborhood mixed use is it's walkable. It's trying to invite people in. Gas stations and drive-throughs, that's not consistent with what we're going for. So we already know that there's things that we want to change. But yeah, a SketchUp, more public outreach, like really just making sure that we have it right before we look at any other rezoning.
But we would be looking at the sketch before we would be looking at a specific location because you're not.
Yeah, because you don't want to rezone anything really if you're not comfortable with the zone that you're proposing for it. And that's really what came out at our public hearings, that a lot of the neighborhood mixed use code wasn't really what we were envisioning. Do you have a vision? But then people are like, look at this, like what if you're going to plan this? It says gas station. So, so we don't want to move forward with any rezoning if we're not comfortable with the underlying idea that we're trying to create.
Have you looked at the neighborhood mixed use zones in other towns to see
Yeah.
if their code is significantly different than ours?
Yeah. So zoning, if I'm getting really boring, but sorry, anyway. So there's Euclidean zoning, which is the majority of zoning that the town of Niskuna has. And it says you can do this here. It's use-based. But when you look at neighborhood mixed use code, it's really form-based zoning. And that is a mixture of uses and it's really governing what it looks like. And so like when you look at what's coming out from the CDRPC, the CDTC, like all these places that help communities plan and move their codes forward, they really are looking at mixed use zones and form-based codes. And there's even a planning company based in Niskuna that goes around to small municipalities and helps them build form-based codes into their downtowns. I mean, into anywhere that they really want to look, because Euclidean zoning separates the uses and you end up with suburban sprawl and you end up with non-walkable things. And so like if you're looking at zoning and you look at downtowns that you really love that were built without zoning, they're usually mixed use. They usually have some element of commercial at the bottom and a mixture of housing types and a variety of ways to attract like life to the streets and all those kind of things. And if you look at those things in Euclidean zoning, they tend to be separated out and they're non-conforming. So it sounds odd, but it's actually quite, it's not even a trend. It's almost like going back to the way that it was originally built that really worked for people. So are we perfect on it? No. Are we trying to move into a place that would allow for flexibility with the town if we lose a lot of big box retail and stuff like that? Yes. I mean, I think I sent to you guys out, like Colony's comprehensive plan right now says we have got to plan for the changing retail landscape. So that's really what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Zoning, okay, sorry. A resolution to call a public hearing for a special use permit for the Niskuna Farmers Market at the co-op. We were looking at what the next steps would be for the farmers market. I reviewed it. I feel like because it's at the Niskuna Farmers Market, the town's still running the farm. It's everything that we've always discussed, but it should have a special use permit to be operating. The planning board looked at it. They were very receptive to it. They appreciated that there would be some ability for the police to help people cross the street or just have a presence there. But generally speaking, the planning board has called for a public hearing on it already. We have a very short time frame, just trying to get the permits all lined up. So my recommendation would be to call for a public hearing for June 11th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay. Lori Peretti.
Okay, number 6 is a resolution to appoint summer staff to the Community Programs Department. This is our big lead up to summer, and I've got a very large list for both pool and summer playground staff. We're working to tweak it, make sure we have everything perfect, all the names in place, and I should have it for the next meeting. Anybody have any questions? No. And the next ones, did you want me to speak on this, or did you want to talk about the next one, ceremonial resolutions?
Yes, we have some ceremonial resolutions coming out of community programs. We'd like to recognize the Niskayuna Unified Sports Program. And we have some really good news out of the basketball and bowling program for that one. And we also have the Science Bowl award winners from the middle school. And we have an additional one for some 4 state rowers from our Niskayuna rowing program that won state championship this weekend. So I'm in touch with the rowing coach, and she's going to provide some information for that resolution. So I'm looking forward to that one too.
Great. Thank you. We're now going to move on to Chief McManus.
Good evening. Number 9 is a resolution to hire 2 new recruits for the police academy in July of this year. These 2 recruits will be hired in anticipation of 2 retirements that are going to be coming up. One possibly in the summer or fall of this year, as late as January. The other one should be sometime this time next year. When we hire recruits in one of the 2 academy classes, it takes about 10 months to have an officer ready for the road. So recruits hired in July would be ready for Niska Day, essentially next year, to be on their own. With some injuries that we've had, we've been having a lot of mandates for overtime where we have to hold police officers over for the next shift into a 16-hour shift. Certainly any further gaps with retirements and that kind of thing is going to put the pressure on that stronger. So we'd be looking to hire the recruits in July, have them ready, and then that would seamlessly fill for the retirements that we see. So it's not an additional hire, it's just in anticipation of the retirements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll do the next one, ceremonial resolution for Niskayuna Fire District 1. They're going to be recognized as the Schenectady County EMS Agency of the Year. They are well deserving of this honor, so we are going to be happy to honor them later this month at our town board meeting. And next we will move to Matt Yetto.
Number 12 is a resolution to appoint another attendant at the transfer station. We appointed one last month. He's working out well, but I'd like to have one additional person just in case, because we currently have 2. So if one of them's not there, I'd like to have a backup. It may be a situation where it's just somebody we call when we need them, but just having that extra person approved to work would be beneficial. 13 was the resolution that was on last month, but it got missed. We have a worker in the water and sewer crew that we'd like to move from a water and sewer maintenance worker to a water and sewer maintenance worker 2. It's just a change in title to acknowledge his continued growth and try to retain good workers and avoid losing people that we've put a lot of training into. And he's a very good applicant. Josh Matthews is his name. 14 and 15, I'm going to pull. We're not quite ready for those 2. 16, we're waiting on the results of a mini bid to purchase a 1-ton dump truck for the water and sewer crew. It was approved earlier in the year. We just haven't gotten around to purchasing it yet. 17 is just the standard resolution to approve the 2019 first quarter corporate utility warrant. We have all the numbers in. We've checked everything. Everything looks good. 18 is very similar. It's the fourth quarter for 2018 corporate utility reconciliation. Everything looks good. We checked the numbers. Kathy in my office has double-checked Chris's numbers. We have no issues with that. 19 is a resolution to appoint staff, basically summer workers for use of the water and sewer crew. We have potentially 2 people that we could use. We had advertisements out there to get names, and then hopefully I'll have a name prior to the meeting. If not, we'll pull it. But I have one, so we'll have one, but I have 2 more that I'd like to try to fill. That's it. Did you want to do the resolution now, calling for the public hearing for the turf management? Denise?
Yes, that's why we did it in,
Yes.
we talked about it in finance. So
I didn't know
we're
if you wanted it to come from Ray or from myself.
Both of you, either of you.
Okay.
it's fine.
So we are, as part of our MS4 annual permit and required MS4 annual report, one of the public comments would question the town's use of pesticides and fertilizers on our town fields and in the parks. So we're going to work on a town turf management plan, which would display all that information to the public. We do report that information, but it would be a more.
And we actually do all of these things. It's just memorializing all of it and
Yes.
categorizing it and putting it all
In a
in one
nice, in a
place.
nice place for the public to see. They could they could find the information on a report, but this is more of an educational type of product that we can produce. So we're going to have a public hearing, call for a public hearing at the next meeting. Would that be on the 11th of June? Would that be the public hearing?
If we're going to have Laura's, I guess,
Yeah.
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 That's
That'd be
all I
great.
have.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, the people we put on last month, have they all started?
For.
We did like 5
Oh,
guys for you.
They're doing the paperwork and doing the pre-employment tests. It should be any day now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Next up is Ray Smith.
All right, just to kick back Chief Miss number 10, it's just a resolution to approve the sale of surplus vehicles, impounded vehicles. We discussed that upstairs, but he forgot to talk about it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Number 20 is a resolution to appoint a maintenance worker at the Highway Department. This is a job that we posted, a civil service position, and reviewing the applicants that put in for it, and I will have a recommendation for you by the end of the month.
Great.
Number 21, a resolution to appoint a grounds worker to the Parks Department. This is an entry level to backfill this civil service position that we're going to be filling, currently doing interviews. If I get one that I'm comfortable with by the time the town board meeting is, I'll give you that name. If not, I'll push it on to the next month. 22, a resolution to appoint a summer staff to the Parks Department. I think I'm up to 5 or 6 right now that I'll be putting on. Much needed. Quite a few of them are kids graduating from high school, so they'll be available in June. So I'd like to get these through, get them working. A few of my last year's staff, which we always encourage them to take internships or whatever in their field of school, have called and said that they're actually taking an internship. So that's a good thing for them. 23 is a resolution to award a street tree master plan. Laura Robinson revised this. This was something that we talked about a year ago. Had a broad spectrum. I know Laura and the Tree Council has worked on this and curved it back a bit, and it looks good at just a fraction of the cost to implement this. So Number 24 is a resolution to purchase a dump truck, plow, and sander for use in the Parks Department. There was a Onondaga County bid. It came in a little bit higher than what we had put in for. So we currently, it'll be either today or tomorrow, entered a mini bid. Paul's office, Janet, helped us create a mini bid, and she's putting it out, hopefully to have a savings compared to just a regular outgoing contract. It's been that way in the past that we've saved quite a bit. So we're hoping we at least get closer to our budgeted number. Number 25 is a resolution to purchase a 10-wheel dump truck, plow, sander for use in the highway department. This is an Oneida County bid. Just finalizing the paperwork. It's basically a duplicate of what we bought last year. Prices seem to be the same to this point. We just have to final up the documents, and I'll have that for you for the town board meeting. Paul, you want me to do 26? That 26 is a resolution to award a contract for the repair of the Avon Crest signs. As you know, Paul Briggs has been working on this. I've been trying to forward him as many quotes as we can. We're eagerly looking to get this thing repaired and put away. So I think Paul's doing his diligence. I'm trying to do my diligence. So hopefully this will happen very soon. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Paul Sebesta.
Okay, number 27 is a resolution to make budgetary modifications. I did circulate at the finance meeting a short list, but there needs to be additions to cover the appointments that are not included in the budget. That'd be for the highway department, the police department, the assessor's office. None of those, all of those will need some kind of a budget modification also. So I'll do my best to put something together and circulate it tomorrow. It has to be done. 28 and 29 are tabled. 30 is a resolution to appoint a summer intern in the supervisor's office. And that's the same individual that worked last year for the summer, college student. 31 is a resolution to appoint a deputy town attorney. We have a person, which is great. And I don't know this proposed salary, so if there's something other than what's budgeted, I need to know that. Also, that may also require a budget modification. 32 is a resolution to approve the sale of surplus equipment from the town court. I think much of it is just going to be surplus and isn't of any value, but if there is some, we can attempt to sell it. There's also a long list that I gave to Matt Yetto that needs to be removed from our inventory. There's a couple items on there that may be eligible for sale also. 33 is the permanent appointment of several employees in the highway, water and sewer and police department that are reaching their probationary periods. Actually, Walter in the police department can go till next month. This is a month early. I don't know if there's a reason to do this a month early, but the actual due date is on the day of the June board meeting, so that can be held. I always recommend going the full period, but there's no requirement to go the full period either. So if there's,
We'll make everyone else do it, so.
that's what I feel. Consistency is good. 34 is a resolution to appoint a town assessor. Amy is retiring after 30 years. Lucky Amy. And we have some that weren't listed that were discussed in finance. The first additional one, I guess 35, would be a resolution to update the New York State Retirement System Standard Workday Reporting Resolution. We have a change in an employee that requires us to complete this and post it on our website and adopt it by resolution. Next is a resolution revising the authorized list of depository banks. We've been working with the Greene County Commercial Bank, who's been the successful or the lowest bidder on our last two bond anticipation notes and saved us in the $7,000 to $8,000 range. They're coming in offering very advantageous interest rates on checking account balances. And I'm recommending to move an account from where it's been for many years to the bank, the Greene County Commercial Bank. And we've done quite well in our interest earnings. Last year, we greatly exceeded our budgeted revenues. So that's going to be, that report's being filed, and that'll be circulated soon so you can see how much. I don't have the number in my head, but it was quite good. We did, and that relates to the NILAF investment vehicle that the town board authorized several months ago. Done quite well with that. We're earning a grand 2.2% interest, which doesn't sound like a lot, but on upwards of $20 million, it adds up. And we were receiving in the 1% range prior to that. Just a side note. And the next additional resolution is a resolution regarding the leasing of a town postage machine. Our the machine in the town clerk's office is coming up for renewal, and Metroland Business Machines is offering, business equipment, is offering the same model. It's a NeoPost for $15 less, a 10% reduction. It's a slightly longer lease period, but it's all covered under maintenance. So the town clerk's in favor of it. This machine's worked out well for us, and we'd like to re-up that with a new piece of equipment. They do wear out, a lot of plastic parts in them. And finally, there's a resolution I covered the office equipment. I'm sorry. That's it.
Thank you, Paul.
Great.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn our agenda meeting. If I could have a second on that motion.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signified by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned for the evening. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.